How are you? Evelyn does the time. Well, I mean, Evelyn reminds me.
So they do the time.
Mary does, so Evelyn does for you. Because, yeah,
How much do they get? They get a minute? They get a minute?
No, 3.
Oh, it only says a minute. Depend on how many people. Oh, he's.
we get 1 second more than 3 minutes. That's okay. I'm feeling magnanimous. For you,
Yep. And I said, it's on.
You're on.
It's on.
Okay.
You're on.
Yes, it
Is
is.
mine on?
It always looks different here than on the computer.
The public hearing on the budget will begin now. First, we will have the proposed CAC district budget. Mr. Watka is already up there, so would you review it for us?
Thank you, and good evening, everyone. Good evening, Madam Chair, governing board members, Madam President, Madam Substitute Secretary, colleagues, guests, and any students, if there are any students in attendance this evening. What we have is the public hearing on the proposed budget for 2017 and 18. If you recall, we did a tentative review a month ago at the April board meeting, and at that time we mentioned that we could not make any increases to the budget, and we have not done that. The budget is actually the same as what was presented 1 month ago, so I'll just quickly go through the highlights. First of all, on Schedule A, excuse me, the total current fund and general funds budget for 2018 is $94,104,900, which is a $4.3 million decrease from the budget in 2017. And what is on here also of significance is our property tax rate. And if you'll see, our property tax rate is going down by almost 5.5 cents on the primary tax levy and about 2.9 cents, and I rounded up to 3 cents on the secondary levy. So about an 8.4 cent decrease in our property tax levy. And what's important to note here is that we are far from our maximum levy. On Schedule A, you'll see the last line shows 62.3 million is what potentially could be levied in property taxes, and we are only levying 49.9 million of that. So it's 12 million under of what potentially we could levy as an institution. Schedules B and C highlight all of the revenues and the expenditures. Once again, to detail the state budget, we have been cut once again this year, $103,200 less than the current year. So we are going to receive $1,621,300 for fiscal year 18. Tuition, we have built the budget at a $2 increase, as the board approved the $2 increase a few months back at a board meeting, of which $1 is going towards the student activities funding. And the tax levy I just discussed. So on the expenditure side, we do have built in, as we noted last month, a 2% salary increase into this budget. Our total budget of all funds is $131,974,500. That is the total revenues, and that is the total expenditures. And at this point, I'd be happy to entertain any questions you may have.
Are there questions of Mr.
Madam President, President Jackie, Mr. Vodka, after all of the in-depth analysis that has been done on this budget, knowing that there is a reduction in state support, an increase in tuition, increase in assessed valuation for property, and balancing all of those together, do you feel that this budget is sufficient to carry us through this coming year with and maintain programs as necessary?
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Other questions? I hear none. You have further?
Just the call to the public now, if any, and then we have the approval.
Okay, there's nobody who has signed up for call to the public. Did anybody want to ask any questions or speak on the budget only? Not so.
Okay, thank you.
So we will now have the special meeting. It will be called to order for the adoption of the 2017-2018 district budget. Okay, anybody want to discuss that further after listening to the review by Mr. Wadka? If not, I would hear a motion that we accept the budget as presented.
Madam President, I move that we accept the budget as presented.
Okay, is there a second?
Second the motion.
All in favor of such motion, please signify by aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Passes unanimously. Okay, agenda item has been filled, so we will adjourn the special meeting and go into our regular meeting. So we will now have the call to order for our regular May meeting. The Pledge of Allegiance will be first. Would you all please stand? Mr. Miller, would you lead us, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Has anybody read and feel like making a motion to accept the minutes as written?
Madam President, I move we accept the minutes as presented.
A second.
I second it.
All in favor of such motion signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The minutes are approved. We next have a call to the public. The board is prohibited from discussing or considering or acting on items raised during the call to the public. Individuals are limited to a 3-minute presentation. First on the list is Fran Deal. You want to come to,
We didn't realize,
I'm sorry,
when we changed the order that we signed in, we didn't realize we were signing in the order.
okay. How about Francie Deal? I'm sorry, I cannot hear you.
Can I start first, because we didn't realize there was an order to...
Okay, I was just doing it in the order that they were signed in. Okay, Jerry Deal.
Good afternoon. Many, if not all of you know me. I'm Jerry Deal, former CAC Technical Director and Manager. After nearly 8 years of CAC, I request additional time to read my speech. If that's not possible, I request to meet with the President and the Board at your earliest convenience. Is that possible? To meet longer than 3 minutes?
Wait, would you speak into the microphone? I'm
Yes,
sorry.
sure. I said, is it possible for me to give my full speech? It's about 7.5 minutes.
I'm sorry, not the call to the public. This
Okay.
is not a hearing, it's a regular meeting.
Okay, that's fine. I wanted to speak to you as to why actually, first I say, my wife suggested I do not mention names of individuals in my speech, but to give you a list of those individuals for privacy's sake. This is the first thing in the packet, and I've brought packets for each of you. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to hand you any kind of background information. No?
You can pass them out if you wish,
Can I pass them out?
to the board.
Okay, maybe can you pass those out, please? The box, the folders, just those who, that's allowed. Okay. I wanted to speak to you as to why I'm no longer employed at CAC. You may have heard I no longer work at CAC due to health reasons. Well, that is far from the truth. I have no intention of leaving at CAC. I thought this job would carry me through retirement. Well, that was no longer an option when I became sick fall of 2015. But that illness is not the reason I left. I was pushed out. I have provided you documents which coincide with my speech. Please read them at your convenience. I've also provided you with an audio CD that contains recordings of 4 meetings. The track 1 is a meeting with the previous chair and the EIT head. Track 2 is a meeting with the previous chair and lead faculty. Track meeting is with the dean, and track 4 is the meeting with the dean and the chair. What is disturbing with these recordings is that the new chair stated she started the meeting very agitated, telling me that she did not want to hear about the previous chair, that I needed to move on and get over it. The first 2 meetings were called by the chair when I started having health issues and had missed some work due to doctor appointments. There was no discussion of poor teaching, misconduct, or violations. They were meetings to talk about my teaching, my design tech work, and Pence. It was all positive. After I became sick and on FMLA is when the complaints and calls for reprimands began. The 3rd and 4th meetings were called for by the dean at the end of my first 6 months probation period to discuss an action plan, an extension of probation to a year. Needless to say, I was shocked that that probation was extended. I hope you take the time to listen to these recordings and the meetings, so there was no mention of my work in or out of the classroom or on shows not being up to par.
I'm sorry, your time is up.
All right, that's fine. Okay. Can I just read this last, because there was a discussion and I had to repeat things to start my speech. Can I have about another 20 seconds? Because I had to repeat part of the beginning of speech. I was asked to talk louder into the mic. Can I have another 20 seconds to read this paragraph?
Okay.
Shortly after these meetings, doctors finally found that my heart had a virus and was only pumping at 24%. That was down from 35% the month before. My heart was failing. Throughout this ordeal, I kept in touch with the benefits staff member, the dean, and the chair through email. The lead faculty and EIT head were not in a position of supervision over me at the time. I included them in emails once the chair announced his retirement, and lead faculty and EIT head were placed in power of authority.
I'm sorry. Our
Okay.
time is up.
That's fine. Right there.
Okay, my name is Francie Deal, and I am Jerry's wife and a former CAC student. It is my hope that you read the documents and provided and listen to the recording. Shortly after the first 2 meetings, doctors found that Jerry's heart had a virus. It was pumping at 24%. It was down from 35% from the month before his heart was failing. Throughout this ordeal, he kept in touch with everybody, staff members, creative arts administration, everybody. He was given a timeline showing he's given you a timeline showing the dates, the health issues, and these 4 individuals were requesting minor and major disciplinary actions against him. He was attacked by the chair when he was in the hospital, and I'm a perfect example. I was there. I had to tell them that they can't be doing that because he was in the hospital and we didn't know what was going on. His heart was failing, and that this information was, if they needed to get information to him, then they could go through me. And the morning that he returned, he was greeted with a nasty email from the chair with a list of demands. He was during his acting classes, during the acting classes for Footloose in the musical direction, the then chair was told nasty comments about him. To the students and guest artists, and that he would have a new technical director and that Jerry wouldn't be back. Once he heard I've already done that. Instead of stopping when I asked him to cease and desist talking about him, he went full force calling on the EIT head and EIT students to assist with charges against him. In a meeting with the new chair, the new lead faculty told Jerry the previous chair had yelled at her as well, and Jerry should get over it. Anyone in an abusive relationship just can't get over it overnight, but he tried. EIT, the now lead faculty, told me the previous chair had told him while Jerry was in the hospital, fall of 2015, that he would never teach at CAC again as long as the chair was here. Jerry was now required to email and check in with the dean and new chair when she arrived at work in the morning and check out when he was leaving for the day. Jerry had multiple surgeries and spent nearly a month in the hospital getting a pacemaker defibrillator implant and several surgeries to clear massive infections in his back. During that time, the previous chair put a gag order on everyone to not contact him, and they were told to not contact him even if it was to see how he was doing. He was cut off from staff and students and his Penn's crew, and it's added to the stress of his health problems. Jerry was no longer
Your time
allowed
is
to
up.
teach.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Who wanted to speak next? Fran or Marie Deal?
My name is Fran Deal. I'm Jerry's mother. My son provided a list of incidents which occurred under these creative arts administrators. Please compare the laws broken, lawsuit, threats against CAC, and numerous very serious incidents which have occurred compared to the charges against him. Lead faculty and EIT head had installed spy cameras in the EIT studios which were linked to his cell phone and home computer without CAC's knowledge or permission. He had work-study students do the install at night with keys he provided and told them not to get caught. That he then, Chair John Owens, knew of this activities. Approximately 1 year later, campus police forced him to remove these. How many staff and students were secretly recorded by this person? How many of you in this room have been recorded without your knowledge or permission? If you were in the studio this past year and a half, you have been recorded. Where the dean and chair and their recommendations to call for discipline? There were none. There is no comparison to what they accused my son. Major discipline was called against him, including 2 charges because he gave his daughter, Laura, his key to go into his office to get his music binder. He was a target. Anybody knows Jerry knows this is not Jerry. The CAC board director told my son that it was a witch hunt and not to ever get through this process they were putting him through. The treatment my son received was personal. The previous chair was a tyrant who punished anyone who didn't follow his reign. The dean, new chairman, chair, and lead faculty continue this treatment. The only reason for this continuation of allegations is either loyalty or fear of the chair. I request that the president and the board look at the documents my son submitted and listen to the CD with the audio recordings and ask the treatment was called for. Was he that much of a problem for the creative arts or CAC to push and push until he resigned? Our family started attending CAC shortly after moving to Casa Grande in 1977. My son, my daughter-in-law Francie, my granddaughter Laura, my other 4 children, and I all took classes at CAC. My son still speaks highly to anyone who will listen to wonderful things CAC has to offer. He talks to middle schoolers all the time about the promise of future scholarship. He still believes in CAC, but he does not have confidence with the dean, chair, and lead faculty. EIT head. Oh, should I? Thank you.
Marie Deal.
Yes. My name is Marie Deal. Jerry Deal is my dad. CAC attempted to eliminate theater back in 1990. My dad and many others spoke out at the board meeting, and the president and board changed their mind. I hope you reconsider your decision to the cuts to theater and dance. My dad healed from the 6 surgeries, but the cuts he received go much deeper. CAC should consider how to make good of a disgraceful situation. I will complete 8th grade on Thursday and am enrolled in the Promise for the Future scholarship. I love doing theater and playing in the band. My hope is that CAC Creative Arts returns to the loving, caring, and career preparedness it once had before I head there to college. My dad said he would like to return to CAC to teach his students and work with his crew, who he misses tremendously. Perhaps someday that can happen. I ask that the president and board makes amends to me and my family for the over 5 years of abuse and accusations. Our lives were put in turmoil when we needed the support the most. No one should ever go through what my dad and our family have had to endure. My dad would love to discuss these issues further. You have his contact information. I hope you consider making amends for what has been done to us. Thank you for listening. And I would like to add, for the Promise for the Future, I am a bit questioning about the scholarship. If CAC were to make any more irrational decisions, in my opinion, then I may think twice about going here. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else who did not get signed up want to talk on the call to public? Okay, that ends the call to the public. Thank you. Next on the agenda is the next page. Mr. Miller, the AADGB rep, have you had a meeting?
No, our next meeting is June 8th.
I thought you told us that. We'll expect one then. And Dr. Banks is ill tonight, so we do not have a Pinal County Governmental Alliance report. I don't think anybody would have gone if they had a meeting in her stead. So we now have a report from our Central Arizona College president, Dr. Elliott.
Thank you, Madam President. Good evening, board members, faculty, staff, guests, and students. I have a few updates to provide to you this evening. The first, the legislative update, but our CFO, Chris Watka, had done a good job of reviewing that our budget from the state is $1.6 million, a little bit less than what we received in the past. As far as the district update, I wanted to share with you a few things. In particular, I served as the keynote speaker for the Pinal County Business and Education Summit on April 28th. And I also served on the Pinal Partnership panel meeting that was held at the Santan campus on May 12th, and we received extremely positive feedback about our campus there in Santan. Many had never been to that campus before, so it was a great honor for us to be able to host that event. During the month of April, as you are aware, I held 6 community forums throughout the district. And some of the reoccurring themes I heard from the community members included improving support for students and strengthening connections between elementary, high school, CAC, and four-year institutions. There is a great demand for us to meet the workforce needs in the area of Pinal County, in particular HVAC, construction, other skilled trades, medical, and health fields. Community members are very interested in us being able to enhance customer service skills training and through a career readiness certificate type program. Our community members are in desire for us to expand community education, lifelong learning opportunities to meet residents and winter visitors' needs, in particular the CAL program that was once in place. There's a great interest for us to bring that back as well. Another theme was meeting the workforce needs for the new and growing jobs in Pinal County, which many of you are aware of. Providing mentoring for students by residents. Our community members and residents of our various communities are very interested in becoming more involved with students and mentoring, so that was really nice to hear. Growth of apprenticeships and internships programs with local business and industries. Include business and industry reps into the classroom, invite them in to speak. Increase the college's economic development involvement, and we have been working really hard to be involved with economic development. And reducing expenditures of funds and increase efficiencies. As you can imagine, many of our community residents are very tax-minded and want us as an institution to be good stewards of their tax dollars. And I heard that in every community, in particular our Saddlebrook friends had some thoughts on that. This input from the community, it's going to be used along with the input from our internal campus community, help chart CAC's future and our strategic direction over the next few months. So was really happy with the success of that. In your Dropbox today, there are several correspondences. The first is a letter from the Museum of Casa Grande thanking the college for supporting the night at the museum. We donated a framed photo for the exhibit that was taken by one of our students. There's also a letter from the National Association of Education of Young Children recognizing the service and work of Vicki Young-Shiverton. As you all know, she was nominated to a national board. There's information in there about Dr. Carol Johnson, who has authored a chapter in a graduate textbook, Anthropology and Education Policy, with the chapter's entitled Dreamers and Documented Students in the U.S. Higher Education. You also have in there a message regarding the night at the Oscars held at the Pence Center on April 20th. In particular, family enjoyed it and attended and very much enjoyed the event and said it was extremely well coordinated. A letter thanking our Disabilities Resource Coordinator, Cheryl Hernandez, for enthusiasm for her students. And then lastly, there's an article there that was provided to us through the Saddlebrook Homeowners Association. They had interviewed me, and they wrote an article about that interview, so that's in there as well that they have shared with us. There are no association reports tonight, so that sums up and completes my president's report. I'm happy to answer any questions or comments you might have.
Anybody have any questions or comments for our president? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, we have our business and administration report from Mr. Watka.
Thank you and good evening, everyone, once again. 3 items for information this evening. The first is your monthly budget report. We are now completed through the month of April 2017. Our total committed funds are at 82.21% of our total budget, which is a slight increase of 0.38% from April 2016, which was at 81.83. So we have now completed 10/12 of the year, 2 months left, May and June for our fiscal year, and the college is where it should be in terms of both our revenues and our expenditures. The second item are the awarded purchases over $20,000. We have 5 of them this evening. First one is for a trench drain system, Skyline Builders and Restoration, Phoenix, Arizona, in the amount of $135,208.01. This was to do trenching and installing a drain system at the Superstition Mountain campus. The next one is gym shower remodel, Skyline Builders and Restoration, Phoenix, Arizona, $113,391.47. And that is to remodel the showers at the gym here at the Signal Peak campus. The next one is the Adobe license renewal, CDWG Inc., Vernon Hills, Illinois, $24,636.70. That is the annual renewal on the Adobe license for the district. The next one is fire services for Santan campus, Rural Metro Fire Department, Pasadena, California, $23,308.43. And that is to renew the fire service. It's an annual fire service for our Santan campus. And the last one is Special Network and System Services Consulting, Avid Consulting LLC, Tucson, Arizona, for $20,000. And that is to contract for both network and system consulting services for the district. Would there be any questions on the financials or
A
the?
question, how can somebody from Pasadena take care of it?
I think that's just a corporate office mailing address.
Madam President, if I might ask a question, going back to the financials, if I could. You stated that the rate of expenditures for this fiscal year was up slightly over last fiscal year. I think you said something like 82.1 currently. Is that within normal variation, or are you expecting a trend as we finish up towards the end of the fiscal year?
No, it's a normal variation, and actually the trend for the last couple of years keeps us just a little significantly higher, meaning if you recall, we traditionally spend around 90% of our budget, even less than that at times. So we're almost done in our expenditure spending.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We've got one more item. The Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting Award. And come on up here, guys. Let me introduce you guys. Come on up here. You didn't think I was going to do this, huh? If you recall, we received the award for the Certificate of Achievement in Financial Reporting, and it's this marble thing that weighs about 25 pounds. We received it first in 2015. We now received it for 2016 as well. So what I'd like to do for those of you that may not be familiar, there's a short paragraph on what this certificate is all about. And it's by the GFOA, which is the Government Finance Officers Association. It's the Certificate of Achievement in Excellence in Financial Reporting Program, which we call our CAFR. And it started in 1945, this program, and it was to encourage and assist state and local governments to go beyond the minimum requirements of generally accepted accounting principles, to prepare our comprehensive financial annual reports that evidence the spirit of transparency and full disclosure, and then to recognize individual governments that succeed in achieving that goal. The goal of the program is not to assess the financial health of participating governments, but rather to ensure that the users of their financial statements have the information they need to do so themselves. Reports are submitted to GFOA, the CAFR program. We have to submit within 6 months of the end of our fiscal year, so this is for 6/30/16. We submitted a report by December of 16 and just received notice a few weeks ago that we did receive the award for 2016. So I'm really proud to present this award, and with me are a lot of my direct reports here. Mark Salas, Director of Purchasing, Jody Travis, Budget Manager, Karen Thompson, Assistant Controller, and Louisa, Director of Financial Services. So I'd like to present this to the board for 2016.
That's kind of very special. It's very. Chris, would you put your
Here, get a picture. The plaque. No, I'm good.
That's pretty special. Okay. Academic Affairs, Dr. Gilliland.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. Elliott, colleagues, students, and guests. Academic Affairs this evening has a report from the Honors Program. We did have a report 2 months ago from Honors when we had students who were awarded the All Arizona Academic Awards, which is also, it's a huge honor. Tonight, we have students who are going to be presenting with Dr. Carol Johnson, the Director and Professor of Honors, about their research and participation in a recent conference. So, Dr. Johnson?
Good evening, Governing Board President Christensen, board members, Dr. Elliott, guests, colleagues, community members, and students. The Western Regional Honors Council holds a conference each spring that brings together honors students, faculty, deans, and directors from across the West to collaborate and celebrate honors education. There is a wide array of individual and group lectures, poster presentations, and special events. These sessions serve as venues for discussion between students and honors professionals committed to high-quality scholarship fostered by robust honors experiences. This year's theme was the Journey to Leadership, and the conference was held at Southern Oregon University in Ashland, Oregon. One of the special events we experienced was attending Julius Caesar, performed by the world-renowned Oregon Shakespeare Festival. 6 students were selected to present their individual research at this year's conference. I will let the students that could be here tonight introduce themselves and their research topics.
My name is Kevin Abke, and at their conference, my research project was about the ethics of stem cell research using discarded embryonic stem cells from in vitro fertilization.
Hello, my name is Bernice Palayo. My project was on GMOs and their effect on the agricultural sector in the United States. GMOs is in genetically modified organisms, and it was a really great experience. Even though it was a very specific topic that I'm really interested in, I was able to use it in my English class, my communication class, as well as biology. So thank you very much for the opportunity.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Edna Garcia, and I present on the animation over years. And actually, this presentation that I did on the conference is going to help me as well when I go to Grand Canyon, because I just recently graduated from CAC, and I graduated with honors. And the honors program has helped me a lot from this journey. And I also won a scholarship at Grand Canyon and the Honors College in there, too.
Sophia Pangburton could not be here tonight because she is visiting her family in Belarus. She researched the dramatic evolution and application of urban Chinese female gender roles. She gave a fantastic presentation that led to a great group discussion. Naomi Barraza gave an enlightening talk about a fascinating and little-known practice in Afghanistan entitled Bachapash, How Culture Affects Perception of Gender and Socialization, and discussed her research on the interpretation of the unfamiliar practice by American women. Aidan Bajelin, who graduated from CAC this semester, could not be with us tonight because he has already matriculated to ASU and had classes in Statics and Calculus 3 this afternoon. He presented on his qualitative study, How Protected Classes Understand and Perceive Federal Civil Rights Laws in Contemporary American Society. Aidan is majoring in civil engineering and has applied to the Barrett Honors College. Finally, I presented on the CAC Dreamers Club, Creating Inclusive and Safe Spaces. This is a student organization supporting students of all immigration statuses. I serve as co-advisor with my honors colleague, Ms. Michelle Gomez. The club was started by students in the honors program and Phi Theta Kappa. The honors program would like to extend gratitude to the board and to others who support and value honors education. Thank you so much.
That concludes you. Thank you, Dr. Gilliland. Next, Jenny Cardenas in College
Good evening, Governing Board President, board members, Dr. Elliott, community members, students, and guests. I think we got a presentation coming up. It'll be brief. So over the last couple years, this is the month that we typically share the graduation information and some of our accomplishments over the years. So I wanted to share this with you today. We actually had the information a little bit more quickly than we have in the past. It's usually our June board meeting. So thank you to Veronica Duran and to Sherry Lacone for helping to gather all of this information for us. Go ahead and go to the next slide, please. Thank you, Sergeant Kenny. Great job. This next part that I'm going to talk about is related to our Early Alert Retention Program. And this is a program that started in 2013. And the goal of the Early Alert Program is to identify students at about the midpoint of the semester who are potentially, at that point, looking as though they may not complete the class successfully. So we've started different programs to help to work with professors, with the Learning Center, with the library, with different student services to help students to get on track. So next slide, please. One before it. Yep. So what this shows, keeping in mind that this is just students who at 45-day count or at that midterm point show that they are earning D's or F's at that point. When we started in 2013, only 60 or 62% of those students had grades that remained a D or F for their final grade. What we've seen is a pretty sharp decline over the last several years that now shows that in the fall of 2016, which was our newest information related to this, just under half of our students were able to convert those grades to successful grades, which is a really, I think, outstanding accomplishment. Many of our students at that point need to have someone reach out to them to just ask the question, what's going on? How can we help? Is it that you need additional tutoring? Is it that there's something going on at home that the college in some way might be able to help with? So really reaching out to the students and communicating. I anticipate that over the next few years, these numbers will go down even more, that we'll have even fewer students who have D's and F's as a final grade. And the biggest reason is with the new implementation of our new ERP, which includes a communication module that will allow us to much more successfully speak to students, and we'll have targeted communication that goes to students to assist them along the way. So I think we'll see these numbers decline even more. The next one is a quick little clicker. The next one shows the number of students whose grades actually transitioned or withdrew from the class opposed to completing the class. That number is much smaller. We did see a decline, and then in the spring of 2016, that number jumped up a little bit and now has gone down again. So about 13.7% of our students who have D's or F's at midterms end up dropping the class prior to the end. So that's certainly another number that we'd like to see decline. I think that we have some great things in place, and as I said, I think this will only improve over the next couple years. And it's definitely been a team effort with academic affairs as well as student services to work together and help our students. The next one is graduation numbers. So graduation was definitely different this year. It was our first time that we didn't have graduation held on our campus. We were at Casa Grande Union High School, and I would definitely like to say publicly that they were tremendous to work with. We had nothing but assistance and guidance throughout the entire process, both when it came to their security officers and maintenance and their administration and staff. It really was a great experience. Certainly not something that we would choose to have our graduation not on campus, but in light of what we have going on in our green out here, it was definitely something that we had to do. So we also weren't sure what that was going to mean for turnout for students, and we actually had more students who were in attendance this year at graduation than we had last year, which was interesting. So not sure if the venue had anything to do with it, but it was a great turnout. We had, gosh, what was it, 170 students, I think, that attended rehearsal the night before, which was a really big number. So for graduation, there you go. One of the things that we have been looking at over the last few years is what are our students doing once they're here? And these are really encouraging slides for all of us to take a look at, that our students have a much more targeted focus on what they're doing. So if we look at our transfer degrees, so that's a combination of our Associate of Science, Associate of Arts, Associate of Business, a combination of those, we had, and I hate to say, but I can't read that. We had 313 students this year who graduated with a transfer degree, which is a higher number than we've had in the past, just slightly, but it's up. If we look at our Associate of Applied Science, which is many times some of our programs where students go directly into the workforce, that number has hovered right around the same. And what I think is really encouraging is our number of students who are completing an Associate of General Studies. It shows us that our students are more targeted. They know what they want to do. They're getting into programs. They can see the future. They can see what they want to get into down the road. So although 4 years ago we had, I believe that says 69 students, 69 students, we had only 38 this year that were in general studies. And I think that really goes to show the professors and faculty members are talking with their students, and our advisors are talking with students and helping them to really select the degree that they're going into that will help them reach their goal as quickly as possible so that they can move on to the workforce or transfer. So those are really encouraging numbers for us to see. The next is kind of, those were just some great pictures that I wanted to kind of share. This was from graduation night. So we can go on to the next one. All right, here are district-wide degrees that have been awarded. So although we had 9 degrees fewer that were awarded this year, there is still the positive trajectory of students that are earning their degrees from CAC. So we had 591 degrees, and I will say this was at the time that I collected the data, which was right before graduation, so potentially there could be a couple more that, I should have checked that before we came tonight, who made it just at the end. So 591 of our students earned degrees this year. And another picture, some faculty members and students. And our number of district certificates. And this one really jumps around depending on programs that we have. Just as we've seen this year that we have certificate programs that last year were not in existence. Kristen, you know certainly firsthand about that. Every year, our certificate programs change depending on what the needs of the community are. So this number continues to kind of go up and down depending on what we have, as well as the programs in our PRISM program, depending on state funding and other things like that. So again, a positive trajectory of students earning certificates, and we had 538 this year. I just thought that was a cool kind of farewell picture from graduation. Does anyone have any questions? Thank you.
We now have the consent agenda. The following items are consent matters unless they are removed from the consent agenda at this time. Any item may be removed from the consent agenda by any board member. What is the pleasure of the board?
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I second it.
Been moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda as is written. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Passes unanimously. Next, we have Brandy Clark with the first reading of the revised board policies. Ms. Clark.
Thank you, Governing Board President Christensen, Governing Board members, President Elliott, Evelyn, staff, students, and guests. This evening I present to you the first reading of 2 college policies. The first policy is Policy 505, the Equal Opportunity Harassment and Non-Discrimination Policy. This policy fully replaces the current Policy 505 and ensures legal compliance with Title IX and Title VII. This policy defines the college's policy on non-discrimination, accommodation of disabilities, and discriminatory harassment. The second policy I present to you for first reading is Policy 529, Employee Absences and Leaves. The revision to Policy 529 comes in accordance with the Arizona Proposition 206, the Arizona Fair Wages and Healthy Families Act, and Arizona Revised Statute Title 23, Chapter 2, Article 8.1, which states college employees shall accrue and have the legal right to use sick leave benefits each fiscal year. So effective July 1, 2017, Proposition 206 and the Arizona Fair Wage and Healthy Families Act will require that all part-time employees accrue 1 hour of sick leave for every 30 hours worked upon a maximum of 40 hours in a fiscal year. So with that, that's just first reading for your consideration. I would be happy to entertain any questions that you may have.
Questions or comments? They're both kind of a lot of stuff.
That's a lot of information.
Pretty ridiculous.
We know,
but
we've been working on it.
the laws require both of these to be passed. Comments or questions? I guess not.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have from Mr. Watka, the discussion with possible action on the combined resolutions affecting the county treasurer's transactions for fiscal year 2017 and 2018.
Thank you and good evening. This is a standard operating procedure that we do every May board meeting. It is to get all our paperwork in for Pinal County, the treasurer's office, for the new fiscal year starting July 1st. So these are combined resolution affecting the county treasurer transactions for 17-18. In your packet are the combined resolutions. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you.
Okay. There's no action.
Yes.
Or is there? There is possible action, yes. Then. So what is the pleasure of the board there?
Madam President, I move that we approve the resolution as written.
And I second that, please.
All in favor of the motion, signify by aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Passes unanimously. Our next board meeting will be June 20th here at the Signal Peak campus. The meeting is adjourned.